Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 520 of Rams Up. Man, getting close to the opener. We'll have my final game preview coming up here in a minute, including, unfortunately, the news that cornerback Darious Williams out for the opener, out for the first 4 weeks, placed on IR, still dealing with that hamstring issue. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in a second. Before we get started, Episode 520, let's talk about a player who wore number 20. Darian Stewart played defensive back. He was really mostly a strong safety, played some free safety as well. 5'11", 214 pounds out of South Carolina, went undrafted. Rams signed him, and he came in and eventually won a starting job, back and forth between starting and backup roles, battling guys like Craig Dahl, Quentin McKell, Rodney McLeod, and James Butler for starting jobs. Even O.J. Atagwe, he was there alongside Stewart for a while. Dealt with a lot of minor injuries in his time with the Rams. Moved on to the Broncos, played 4 years there, also played for the Ravens and Bucks. Actually, he really blossomed once he got to Denver. 9 interceptions in 4 years after only having 1 for the Rams. But again, he did deal with a lot of injuries. I remember him as a pretty consistent tackler, a bit of a thumper, really good player. Darian Stewart, our number 20 for the St. Louis Rams. Hey, Cynthia Freeland of ESPN shared a really interesting stat, and it's a pretty cool stat. She said Matthew Stafford inspired her to create this new metric, as she put it, next play after pressure. Matthew Stafford has the highest passer rating on the next play after pressure in the NFL over the past 9 seasons, 105.4. Sporting News Power Rankings, man, these might have been the sketchiest power rankings I've ever seen. Steelers come in at number 11, Chargers number 12, Rams number 15. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, John Breach of CBS Sports, he's on the other end of the spectrum. He loves the Rams, picking the Rams to be the number 1 seed in the NFC and playing the Lions in the NFC Championship game for the right to go to the Super Bowl. Well, it's finally here. Opening day, opening night for the Rams, Sunday night in Detroit. Rams versus Lions, a rematch of that wild card game last year. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit one more time. This will be our final preview of this game. Rams lead the series, 45 wins, 42 losses, and 1 tie. These teams go back a long ways. The first time they played 87 years ago, 1937. And last time they played, of course, that 2023 wild card round. Memorable games. Well, I have to go back to that game. Lions won it 24-23. Very painful loss, especially for Matthew Stafford. I think he has a different view of the Detroit Lions and their fan base after that game. Learn a little bit about the Lions here. Their head coach, Dan Campbell, his 4th year there. And you know what? He's done much better than I expected. I thought his vibe would wear off, as it often does with coaches that adopt that style. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, one of the best in the business. Their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. Well, how did their 2023 season go? Well, remember they opened up on Thursday night at Kansas City and upset the Chiefs. Followed that with an overtime loss at home to the Seahawks. Went on a 4-game winning streak. Did not lose back-to-back games. Finished 12-5. And then beat the Rams and then the Bucks in the playoffs before giving away that game at San Francisco. How have they changed since last year? Well, 12-year veteran guard Kevin Zeitler replaces Jonah Jackson, who came over to the Rams. They added 8-year veteran defensive tackle DJ Reader, coming off a pretty serious quad tendon injury. And they added defensive end Marcus Davenport, who should help on the pass rush. another signing, cornerback Amik Robertson. Reeder and Robertson, both starters. Robertson will likely get the call at nickelback. Moving on from the Lions since last year, wide receiver Josh Reynolds, we know all about him. He's on the Broncos roster. Jonah Jackson with the Rams. Defensive tackle Benito Jones with the Dolphins. Cornerback Will Harris with the Saints. And safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson came over from the Eagles, and now he is back with the Eagles. Key players on defense. Well, two guys you got to talk about. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson and linebacker Alex Anzalone. Safety Kirby Joseph. We know him pretty well. He's the one that took out Tyler Higbee, and he also took out former Lion tight end TJ Hawkinson playing for the Vikings. Very similar play. Ended the season of two tight ends. Tyler Higbee still recovering from that hit. Key players on offense, well, Jared Goff, our old buddy. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC. Young tight end Sam Laporta turning into a touchdown machine. Running back Jahmyr Gibbs. And their offensive line has some good players there. Penei Sewell, one of the best in the business. Taylor Decker. Center Frank Ragnow. Out their 2024 draft go, they selected cornerback Terrion Arnold out of Alabama as the 24th overall pick, and he's a starter getting thrown into the fire. Have to deal with the Rams receivers on day one. That'll be a big challenge for him. See if the Rams go after him. Their second round pick, another cornerback, Enos Rakestraw Jr. He's a backup. Also a backup, their fourth round pick, offensive tackle Giovanni Manu. And sixth round pick, defensive tackle Mekhi Wingo. He's a guy Paul Wally and I talked a little bit about during our mock drafts. He's a backup. And they picked one of our favorite players in the entire draft, running back safety Sione Vaki, who is apparently etched in as a running back, fourth-string running back. He really lit it up in the preseason. Never know what to make of preseason performances, but I got a really good feeling about this guy. This was Paul Wallia's favorite player in the entire draft, I think. And we'll probably see a bit of him on special teams, I have a feeling. But only one starter out of this 2024 draft for the Lions at this point pales in comparison to what the Rams have done this past draft and the one before that, actually. And the Rams SoCal connections, well, it's former Ram quarterback Jared Goff, of course, and Amon St. Brown out of USC. They had a Jake Funk on that roster. He was one of the late cuts, getting down to 53. Now, if you went by last year's stats, these teams match up pretty well. Detroit averaged 395 yards per game. That was third in the league. Rams right behind them, seventh in the league, 359 yards per game. Worth noting, this stat was shared all over the internet a couple days ago. When Matthew Stafford, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp are on the field together, the Rams led the league with 6.8 yards per play. And they will all be together Sunday night. Defensively, very similar. Detroit 19th in the league in yards allowed per game. Rams right behind them at 20th. And I think both of these defenses have improved, although Rams dealing with some injuries. How can I say the Rams defense improved? Ernest Jones, Aaron Donald, both moving on. Well, I just have a really good feeling about this pass rush. Trey White at cornerback have a really good safety group. I'm very optimistic that this defense as a whole will be slightly improved. Man, injuries at cornerback could hold us back a little bit early in the season. As of yesterday, the biggest concern for the Rams, at least for Rams fans, was the status of right tackle Rob Havenstein. He appears to be trending towards playing, but we probably won't know until game time. If he can't go, it'll be Warren McClendon at right tackle, Joseph Nopum on the left. And then we hear midday Thursday that cornerback Darious Williams placed on IR. He has been dealing with a hamstring issue forever, and this is unfortunate. It's a pretty big deal. This Lions team can move the ball through the air. Rams right now have three cornerbacks on IR. Darion Kendrick and Trey Tomlinson both out for the year, and now Darious Williams. So they're shorthanded. They still have some talent there, some young guys. Kobe Durant has been limited, so hopefully he can go. Undrafted rookie Josh Wallace listed as Williams' backup on the official depth chart. Rams could do a couple different things, though. They could play Durant on the outside, ask Quentin Lake or Russ Yeast to play some nickel. They do have some very versatile defensive backs, so it's not the end of the world. Still far from ideal, though. And then still out there, unsigned, cornerback Ahkello Witherspoon. He played really well for the Rams last year. Still out there. Could the Rams make a run at him? Is Witherspoon in game shape? Could he be ready to go Sunday night? Or are the Rams comfortable with the guys they got? We may have an answer to that by the time you hear this. Rams are also missing Alaric Jackson due to a suspension, as well as Jimmy G. So what are my fearsome 4 keys to the game? And Ian, Paul, and I went over this a little bit in our roundtable. Actually, we went over it quite a bit. So I'm going to be echoing some of these. The first one, fearsome key number 1, is the trenches, the battle in the trenches. And I'm more worried about the Rams' defense holding up against the Lions' rushing attack. Jahmyr Gibbs running behind that big offensive line, and backup running back David Montgomery. He's no slouch either. Rams are going to have to slow down that running game, and that's a big task. Couple rookies, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, going to have their hands full, and that linebacking core, Christian Roseboom, Troy Reeder. Lions are going to challenge us there, and we don't necessarily have to shut down their running game, but we got to do a good job of forcing them into some second and third and longs. Fearsome key number 2, well, we all saw that Rams playoff game last year, and where did the Rams fail? In the red zone on offense, could not punch it in, got to finish our drives. Now, we have a rookie kicker. He's going to have to come through for us, but hopefully we don't have to go to him too often. Let's punch it in. Let's get the touchdowns. And with Kyren Williams and Blake Corum in the house, we should be able to do that. Fearsome key number 3, we have to have some wins in the pass rush. Again, really good offensive line. We've heard good things about Jared Verse and Byron Young and the interior guys, Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk as well. Now, these guys may not fill up the stat sheet as far as quarterback hits and sacks, but we need to fluster Jared Goff, make him a little bit uncomfortable. He will make mistakes. I think the big sack numbers will eventually come. May not come in this game, but we got to put some pressure on him somehow, some way. And fearsome key number 4, we got to keep Sam Laporta in check. Whether that's Quentin Lake, man, I don't know if Troy Reeder is going to be able to handle that task. Christian Roseboom, maybe. I think it's going to fall on someone like Lake or maybe Russ Yeast. Laporta is going to have his moments, but we can't let him kill us. Got to keep him in check somehow. He is their ace in the hole, Sam Laporta. And I will add on one thing. I mentioned this in the roundtable. I think Colby Parkinson is going to play a big role in this game in more ways than one. He's going to help our depleted offensive line. I think our guys are up to the task. Worst case, it's Noteboom at left tackle, Warren McClendon at right tackle. But Colby's going to have to help keep Matthew Stafford clean and punch some people in the mouth in the running game, get Kyren Williams and Blake Corum rolling. And I also think he's going to be important in the red zone, again, blocking and bleeding off for a potential touchdown pass in the red zone. 6'7" Colby Parkinson is going to play a big role in this game, one way or another. The odds, Rams are getting 3.5 last I saw. Final word, 2 very good offenses, 2 incredible minds running those offenses, Ben Johnson and Sean McVay. I think the Rams have a decided edge at quarterback and in the wide receiver room. Lions have a slight edge in the trenches. Now the injury to Darious Williams changes things, certainly makes it more challenging for the Rams defense to shut down or limit the Lions passing game. But we knew the Lions are going to move the ball through the air to some degree, and I'm not sure how much Williams' absence changes that. I think Stafford's the difference maker. He is going to be hungry for a win here. Payback time for him and for Tyler Higbee maybe a little bit too. Stafford's not going to let the Rams lose this game. Rams defense has to step up and get some stops. They're not going to keep the Lions out of the end zone. The over-under is 51, by the way. I'm taking the under, but don't put a lot of money on it. Actually, don't bet on it at all. Actually, if you factor in Darious Williams' absence and the fact that Lions are starting a rookie cornerback, maybe you take the over. My final prediction, I'm sticking with the one I shared during last week's roundtable. Rams get the W, come out of Detroit with their revenge win, 27-23 Rams. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.